Aloha. Well, let's look at some general expressions that deal with time, and real simply just kind of go over some basic vocabulary. The first one, of course, kala. Kala, of course, the root word of kala has to do with the sun. And depending on how it's used, generally it means the day. But of course, we can think of the day where it's the light of day, or we can actually think of the day as the 24 hours. And they're both used in that way also. So kala has a kind of general idea of a 24-hour period, including the actual daylight. Now, in comparison, when we use the word ao has a couple of meanings also, but ao generally has to do with daylight. So when I use the word ao, it generally has to do with daylight, or it has to do with a more greater idea of the world sometimes. But so when you use the word ao, you're actually talking about daylight. Kakahiaka, anything to do with the morning. Yeah, kakahiaka. Many times if you make the expression early morning, we'll say kakahiaka nui, which means early morning. Yeah. Avakea or avakea, of course you notice the word vakea, which talks about the expansion of the sky above. Avakea is really when the sun is anywhere above you. Now some people like to use expressions like from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and that's fine, but the general idea that the sun is above. Wakya. Awinala, and the root word of awinala is the word awi. Awi means to pass by, that something has passed by. And of course you can see ka'awi ana o kala, the passing of the sun. So this is when the sun is heading downwards, past 2 or 3 p.m. on its way to sunset. Awinala, again the meaning of the sun is passed. Ahi, general idea of evening or night, but generally has to do with the evening, as darkness is falling or as darkness falls, especially after sunset. Ahi. Po is actually the opposite of ao. And this, of course, is the idea of darkness, when darkness has fallen. So if it's a very dark night, for example, we might say po ele, a black night. And so forth. So any kind of word expresses darkness is po, or in a sense of night. Kapule, this is taken really from the construction of English today, where we use pule to represent the 7-day or 7-night week. A week, pule. And sometimes you see words like hebedoma, might be an older word. In Hawaiian, actually, the traditional Hawaiian pule is what we use the word anahulu. And hanahulu actually means the number 10. And then in Hawaiian, we actually have three 10-day weeks. And of course, this is how we come up with the so-called Hawaiian month, which is very different from the English 7-day weeks. Kamahina, and kamahina has to do with moon, and therefore the idea of a month. Kamahina has to do with the moon cycles. Sometimes you see the word malama is another word that's used. But anything to do with the moon phases, or the more idea of the month itself, we use the expression mahina. So kamahina o pepeluali, kamahina o malaki, kamahina o apelila. Of course, these are all words that have been taken and borrowed from European languages. Now in Hawaiian, the word makahiki means year. And it, of course, comes from the idea of the makahiki season, generally in the fall period. When we have our sudden storms and rains and winds that come from the south. And the makahiki expresses that idea anywhere from fall into early winter. So anywhere from October, November into January, perhaps even February, are expressions of the makahiki season. But generally, when we're talking about time today, like what you see here, ka makahiki elua kaukani ekolo, it really has to do with the calendar of a year. In what year? Other kinds of important phrases, and you notice this word keia blank ae, some kind of with time. And this probably best expressed with the idea of upcoming, or probably the idea of English like next. So if I had to say something like next week, not this week, but next, because the expression of this week, in fact, is keia pule, this week. When I add this directional, and this directional, it kind of seems to have this idea of what's coming up next. What this expresses, of course, this upcoming week, keia puleae. Now, sometimes you also might have other directionals. A common one that's used instead of ae is the word iho. And iho generally has a kind of stronger sense of upcoming, very near. Keia puliho. Yeah. Keia mahina ae, next month. Keia makahiki ae, next year. Okay, let's scroll down. And likewise, we also, of course, the idea from next, now we have this sense of what you might think of in English as being like last, or the one that's recently passed. And that is best expressed with this word ne here. So many times when you see the word ne, in fact, sometimes it might not even have the directional, but the idea of ne added to time generally means not the one just now, but the one that has just passed. So when I say kela la akune, and you notice that kela is also another ka'i that's used, but that day that has just passed. In other words, yeah, that past day, kela la kune. And now this might mean maybe I'm at night, maybe this is 10 p.m. And so when I use kela la akune, what it's referring to is the day that has just been completed. Not yesterday, but the day that just completed itself before the evening. Now, generally in Hawaiian, we start days with night. Yeah, so we start at, just kind of think of it in a general sense today, maybe 6 p.m. Whereas in English, many times, they start, of course, with 12 midnight to complete their day, the 24-hour cycle. So this is one thing that's different between in traditional Hawaiian and English. So the other expressions, kela pule akune, of course, the week that has just passed. Kela mahina akune, yeah, last month, or the month that has passed. Kela makahiki akune, that past year, yeah, the recent year. Kekahila akune, yeah, the day just before, or a particular day prior that has passed. Yeah. Kamanavane, meaning the one that, as I just talked about, with the sense of ne. So when we say kapone, what it means is, in English you would say last night, but what it really means is the night that has just, the most recent night that has just passed. So right now I am standing on campus, it's 10:46 a.m. So when I say ikapone, they're talking about that dark period, the one that has just passed. Yeah, what of course in English would say last night. But when I say kakahiakane, this is the most recent morning that has passed. Now you notice, I am in the morning right now. This is kakahiaka. So when I say ke kakahiakane, it's not talking about the morning I'm in right now. It's referring actually to the morning that had recently passed, which would be yesterday morning, kakahiakane. So many times this is used, maybe it's actually 10 p.m. right now. So if this was 10 p.m. and I said kakahiakane, what's referring to is the morning, the most recent morning that has just passed. Keavakeane, yeah, the recent afternoon. Kauinalane, the recent late afternoon. And Kahopenapulene, last weekend. Yeah. So they're kind of related. The big difference in just the stressing is just the most recent one that has passed. The most recent one that has passed. Keia Manawa, of course, what's going on right now? Keia la, today. Now it could mean today like daylight, but generally now when we say keia la, it's talking about this, what you would call in English Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. Keia po, this evening. So of course, if it's still morning right now, and I say keia po, I'm talking about the night that is upcoming within this so-called day. Not the night that is past. That would be kapone, but the night that is upcoming. So a lot of time keia has to do with the now, or the one that's closest to coming about. Yeah. Keia kakayaka, yeah, which will be this morning I'm in right now. Keia kakayaka. Keia makahiki, this particular year. Keia manawa, the general idea of now. And another word that's used strongly with the sense of now, like right now as I'm speaking, is the word ano. And sometimes ano can be used up front in many times. Like if I say, hey, right now, come here. I might say, ehelemai, ano. I could also say, ano, ehelemai. And ano has this sense of making it strong that is happening right now. Okay, let's scroll up. Some other common words that obviously we talked about the past and, the future. And another common expression that we have is this sense of nehine. And nehine, of course, meaning yesterday. Yeah, the idea of yesterday in English. Now, one of the things you notice about nehine, now sometimes, let me just say, sometimes you might hear kupuna would use with a ka'i and they might say, ika nehine. That's, of course, correct. That's our kupuna. Now, generally, today, we generally do not have the ka'i in front of ka. And so when we use nehine as a piko, for example, if I said, yesterday was cold, was a cold day yesterday, I might say, anu, and in the piko position, o nehine, you notice that's a piko position. And with okina o. Now, it's almost like it's a name. And so you got to think of nehine in a way like a name. Anu o nehine. Now, why is it that way? Just because. So when we use nehine as a piko, it's okina o. But if I'm talking about time as an avehenua, I nehine. And another one, you notice, plus one. In other words, in English, I might say the day before yesterday. Which is a common expression in English, Not yesterday, but the day before yesterday. So I would say in Hawaiian, yesterday and the day in front of it. Inehine a ialaku. So it means yesterday. So you kind of like think of you expressing, reaching back towards yesterday, inehine, and another day in front of it, another day away. So it's kind of like yesterday and the day before. That's a common expression. Like in English, the day before yesterday. Inehine a ialaku. Now with the idea of tomorrow in Hawaii, first thing we remember that it's actually a ka'i here, kalapopo. So we never say just ka or I apopo, but always I can explain kalapopo. Sometimes you hear it's pronounced like kela apopo. And so it sounds like this also. That's a common pronunciation. So kalapopo, of course, the general idea of tomorrow, not today, but tomorrow. When it's used in a avehenua, ikalapopo. Sometimes, as you see, maybe up front, and I'm going to say tomorrow, I'm going fishing. I could say ikalapopo, eheli ana wau ikalawai'a, or eholoholo ana wau. Sometimes commonly, all you hear kupuna will just say is apopo, eheli ana wau. Apopo, eholoholo ana wau. So this is a common kind of like verbal expression that's used. I've never seen it written that way, but in regards to spoken Hawaiian, it's common. Now, you notice here, kapo apopo. Kapo apopo is talking about the night, or you might say in English, tomorrow night. Or the darkness period tomorrow. Ke kakahiaka apopo, same thing, tomorrow morning. So you notice here, tomorrow is the kahulu for morning. Kiava kia apopo, kawinala apopo. So in English, when I say tomorrow at noon, in Hawaiian it's not ka'apopo avakia, but the afternoon, and apopo is being the kahulu, that's describing avakia. And all the same, kawinala apopo, kiahiahi apopo. And just like we had with nehine in the opposite direction. So when I say tomorrow, apopo, the next day, and another day in front of them. In other words, the day after tomorrow. Apopo ayalaku. Apopo ayalaku. Both are used in this way. If I'm talking about the next morning, and again, not tomorrow, not the morning that's coming, but the morning after. So the morning after. And then this expression, ikiawanae, means in the daylighting on the next day. Ikikahila. Ikiawanae, ikikahila. The morning to come. Okay. And that's basically a very generic way of looking at time. And to understand in Hawaiian, it's very clear. We can express both into the future, both into the past, and the uses of words like ne, which kind of means recent or the past. And the idea of ʻaʻe that you see also being used. Anytime with the idea of upcoming or next that's attached. So that's a very simple way of looking at time in Hawaii. With that, mahalo, aloha.